But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
We're live.
Okay. Sorry guys. Coming to you live from deep within a windy and icy and also sometimes laggy and not on time radioactive meme land. We are the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse, the few, the brave, the bitchy. Once more wading into battle against the lobster hordes with Rantzerker, whatever the number this one is.
110! We're at an even number. 110. 50 Shades of Fido.
Yes, 50 Shades of Fido, feminist analysis of the dog park. All right, this is a little bit meta because we already know that this is by the same hoaxsters that did the conceptual penis. They were not happy with the savage burn that was the conceptual penis being published in the grievance industry academic paper world. So they had to come back with even more ridiculous papers that they got published in gender studies and gender and queer and racial studies and all of the various we're oppressed studies. So this is
it's part of feminist geography.
Oh, apparently. Feminist geography.
Oh, yeah, the journal is apparently a gender, place, and culture, a journal of feminist geography.
Okay,
geography
that's
of the fields.
Geography wasn't correct enough.
Yeah, well, that's where the dog park, the rape in the dog park was published. But overall, they've been trying to get their stuff published in what they're terming the grievance industry. The journals that serve the grievance industry. So people who have a grievance against Western society. And the individuals in question, our team of jokesters, are Helen Pluckrose, James A. Lindsay, and Peter, and last name I can't pronounce, so I'm going to henceforth refer to him as Boss Hog, Peter Boss Hog. So they've gotten an additional 7 articles published. And they still, when the hoax was revealed, they still had 7 papers in play, and they called a halt on those 7 papers. 2 of them had been revised and resubmitted. And apparently when a journal requests that you revise and resubmit, it just means that they have to make some minor changes, and then it will usually result in an acceptance. And a couple more were still under review, and some were going to be revised and resubmitted. So we're looking at a group of researchers who are highly successful in the grievance field. I mean, they're publishing like mad. And we also have to mention that apparently the 7 papers that were accepted are now rejected, of course, because even though they were an accurate reflection of their field, thus they were accepted, because the authors weren't genuine in, how to describe this, genuine in their thinking, genuine in their belief, genuine in their religiosity, genuine in their zealotry. These are apparently unacceptable now. So the only real differentiating line between acceptable and unacceptable in these journals is whether or not you earnestly believe this crap.
It's basically like being caught in a lie, and all of a sudden it's like, these things that we totally agreed with are now invalid because you didn't agree with them when you made them.
Yeah. These things that we presented as authoritative in some kind and capacity are no longer authoritative because the person advancing them didn't believe them genuinely. I mean, would that matter with any other kind of science? Like if a bunch of hoaxsters did a paper on, I don't know, wavelengths, and all of the science was correct, and then they said, oh, wait a second, we actually believe that wavelengths are painted by gnomes, not actually, they don't have any electromagnetic properties. Would they withdraw the paper because of the insane beliefs of the author? Or would they say, well, the science is correct, so it stands? I don't know, Teal dear, what do you think?
Well, normally if you are factually accurate, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, the facts come above that. It's why you have quite a lot of very in-depth scientists and whatnot who still believe in God, and their belief in God doesn't cause their scientific work to be retracted.
But in this case, whether or not they actually believe genuinely in what they're saying did cause it to be retracted. Not the factual nature of the science, just the fact that they didn't believe in it. So all of this stuff that's being presented, all of this stuff that was accepted by this hoax group into the grievance industry journals, all of it was acceptable to them. All of it represented their core values. All of it represented whatever standard of factuality that they hold these papers to. This was their stuff. This was their jam. They said, yes, this is great. Let's publish it. So this is a representation of their thinking, even if the authors didn't believe it themselves. This is as much of a representation of the thinking of the grievance industry, journals, in their research, as the stuff that we've covered in this series before with Teal Deer. Like, was it the semiotics of the beaver? Is that what it was titled? Something beaver?
Something along those lines, all about the human beaver collaborations and
how a
trans person,
trans beaver mentality, or trans beaver raising the consciousness of the trans beaver. And then there was another one, consider the feminist water lily.
Yep.
Like, this stuff, they're going to turn around and say, oh, well, this doesn't reflect the field because they didn't genuinely believe in this. Well, it does reflect the standard of factuality, the standard of lunacy that's being published in this field.
Yeah, it's a paper full of complete lies and fiction, and they've just said, yeah, we accept this. And then when the author says, this is lies and fiction, suddenly, oh, we don't want this in our journal. But it's like, oh, but you were fine with it being in your journal until it was revealed that it was lies and fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well done. That just kind of proves to you how dogmatic these things are. It is literally just, how can you make basically women the victim of something, or how can you turn something into a victim or something into an oppressor somehow, and you can just write anything, and as long as you write it with a completely straight face, you can get it published.
Exactly. So the only real dividing line is a genuine belief in what you're writing, which incidentally, I'm not convinced that the person who wrote the semiotics of the beaver trans relationship really did genuinely. I think they're padding out their CV with that one.
Yeah, but this is the thing. It's so difficult to tell now. It's so difficult to tell now between people who are just coming up with any old postmodernist nonsense just to try and say, oh, well, this could be a way of looking at things and interpreting things, versus the people who are just like snickering through their teeth while they're typing out, just like, come on, there's no way this is going to get through. Like, you can't tell the difference anymore.
No, you can't.
This is why the statement, feminism has gone beyond satire and parody exists, and why it's completely true.
Yeah, and you can't. And again, apparently the only dividing line between what is acceptable and unacceptable is either faked or genuine belief in what you're saying. That's it. There's no objective reality anymore. It's just belief.
Oh, this is to do with their whole creation of knowledge thing. Like an author's experience or a person's experience is the creation of knowledge, and that therefore that is just as valid as something that is objective. And that would probably be the pseudo-academic, pseudo-philosophical twaddle way of justifying this. It's, oh, well, they believed it, therefore it was real. Oh, they don't believe it, well, now it's not real.
Yep. It ceased to be real because there's no belief in it. It's bizarre. Okay, so the one paper that I singled out for us to review today, and again, this was genuinely accepted. So factually, it's acceptable to the Grievance Industry Journal. In terms of its insight, it's acceptable. In terms of its logic, in terms of its assertions, every aspect of this was acceptable, except that the authors simply said, yeah, we don't actually believe this shit.
Yep. It was completely acceptable up until the authors ended the paper with the word lol.
Yeah. Burn.
Winky face, lol.
So, but this paper, the one that I pulled out, was the one about rape culture in dog parts. Rape, well, I guess parts doesn't matter.
Yeah. Can I read the title? I could do the readings, I'm
Yeah,
good
no,
at
no. I
that.
just wanted to explain why I pulled it out because this
8th grade
one
was good for me.
gained special recognition for excellence from its journal Gender, Place, and Culture, a highly ranked journal that leads the field of feminist geography. The journal honored it as one of 12 leading pieces in feminist geography as part of the journal's 25th anniversary celebration. How does this stuff? Okay, I'm just gonna look up feminist geography while you set the stuff up.
Speaking of feminist geography, oh, it's already I already have it on the screen. Speaking of feminist geography, I pulled some other articles too. So before we get into the dog park one, I want you guys to see the titles of some of the other studies that these people made, so you can see how retarded it is. And they only became retracted, like Alison said, after the people in academia found out that the people who made it did not actually believe what they were writing themselves, and they were using it to troll them. So up until that moment. All right, so here's one. Glaciers, Gender and Science, a feminist glaciology framework for global environmental change research. Yes, Glaciers, Gender and Science. Moving on. So people were in the comment section talking about how, Trump drinks water, Hitler drinks water. Don't you think that that's suspicious? That glaciers, and that's also speaking of feminist geography, huh? I mean, it's more like feminist geology, but just as ridiculous.
Oh God, sorry. I was just reading the. Oh.
The abstract.
God, I'm just reading. No, I'm just reading the references.
Oh.
The papers that this paper cited. Some of them are really funny.
Let's see.
One of them is literally titled "Fucking Geographers." Like, fucking geographers or the epistemological consequences of neglecting the lusty researcher's body. That was a citation for this dog park rape paper.
Oh, the dog park thing. Okay.
Wait. Is this a citation or a letter to Penthouse? Or actually a letter to some sort of like academic penthouse? A penthouse for academics?
Oh, I don't know. It's I was just reading that. It was just hilarious. I just wanted to see if there were any which were like really obviously from the postmodern generator or linked to someone's C drive or something.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened on like the conceptual penis paper. I wanted to see if that was there. But yeah, it's apparently it's Valerie DeCrane 2017, fucking geographers.
Okay, all right. But these are legitimate citations.
I don't know. I've not checked them.
But if they are legitimate citations, doesn't that actually not make the paper retractable because they're pulling from real? Like, you wouldn't have to retract many of the other papers that are sourced for this one if they also sort of echo the same. No, I mean I'm applying logic. I shouldn't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean the thing is that obviously the standard that they're holding in the grievance journal industry is simply belief. You have to genuinely believe the dribble that you're saying. But you're technically right, because if this is all cited and all of its statements are correctly cited to other works within this particular field, they shouldn't be able to withdraw it because it is accurate to the field. Like if I created a paper and everything that I had in it, every fact that I had in it was correctly cited, they really couldn't withdraw it based on a factual inaccuracy. So you're correct, Brian, but those ain't the rules we're playing by right now.
Rules? We don't need rules where we're going.
We don't need gravity because we got feminist geography.
Also, Alison,
apparently, fucking geographers is a legit paper.
See,
I've linked it.
I was thinking it probably is. Here we go. Fucking geographers. Yep, here we go. It's fucking geographers, or the epistemological consequences of neglecting the lusty researcher's body. So if you're like, if this was also bullshit, which I just get the sense that it might be, would you then have to retract this as well? I know, but this one isn't, because the person who wrote it might actually believe it. Queering methodologies, doing field work, and becoming queer. Wait, so does becoming queer, is that a consequence of doing field work? Like I thought you were born this way.
Well, but maybe
No,
maybe it's-
apparently, if you just read enough maps, eventually you really like having a dick in the ass somehow. The two are obviously connected.
Okay, I want to read this abstract. This is just like a gold mine of, and this is genuine. This isn't even the non-genuine stuff. This is the genuine stuff, and it's indistinguishable, which is of course their point. And this is the fucking geographer's abstract. This article investigates the dichotomy within research on sexuality between the desiring body of the informant on the one hand and the non-desiring body of the researcher on the other. Despite earlier calls to acknowledge and exclude the eroticisms of the researcher, accounts where the desiring researcher's body is a central focus remain exceptions to the rule. The main goal of this intervention is to investigate why the absence of the lusty researcher's body seems to endure. I will first explore some of the reasons researchers might feel inhibited to self-disclose their desires, to continue with uncovering some of the techniques used to sustain the cover of the asexual disembodied researcher. Afterwards, I will discuss my own experiences as a junior researcher in the field, mainly my own discomfort and embarrassment to be perceived as a desiring woman researcher, and trace how this has informed my own research trajectory. I conclude by suggesting that writing down our negotiations between the validity of our research versus how much we are willing to self-disclose might be a first step towards an improved inclusion of lust and desire in sex research. What the hell is she saying that she was sexually harassing her subjects?
I don't know. Is she the researcher desiring the
Yes.
body of an informant and the non-desiring what?
Yeah,
And the non-desiring body of the research. So the
I think
non-desiring body of the research. So the researcher isn't supposed to lust after the people giving you information,
I
but
think
she
that's it.
wants to be able to lust after the people giving her information.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think
Okay,
that
so she basically wants to have the right to sexually assault people participating in her studies or something, or to like hook up with them.
or have the right to desire to do so. Maybe she doesn't take it as far as actually sexually assaulting, although I mean that would be deeply uncomfortable. I mean, could you imagine being part of one of those undergraduate research studies into
Yeah,
psychology and be like,
that's just really weird.
the
To me, this sounds like I want to be able to feel comfortable about schlicking it to my students while
it
thinking
does.
about them. I need to justify the fact that I feel dirty about that, so I'm gonna put forward that I shouldn't feel bad about jerking off while thinking about my undergrad students.
The old
Well, I mean,
bean.
technically they don't specifically say that she's doing this to her undergraduate students, just the people in
That's just the impression I get.
Yeah, I know it is a very strong impression. The desiring body of the informant. So I'm guessing these are like sexual surveys. So she's getting, and you know that all of these weird surveys are always done on undergraduates. Like this is a meme in this kind of research. So
I can suggest that maybe we found the next paper to look at.
Yeah. I would actually really like to know, is this justifying sexually harassing undergraduates and or people who are involved in your research? Which I don't know. How did that get past the ethics committee at the university that she's part of? I mean, seriously, how did any of this? How did somebody read this and say, I think the idea of a researcher expressing sexual desire to the people involved in her research might not be ethical. Just a thought.
Well, we'll find out if we ever get round to reading it, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just
All right.
that abstract is very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Interesting,
so
possibly rapey.
what do you guys want to do? Do you want to get into the dog thing? Do you
Yes.
Okay, let's
Yes,
get into the dog. I have
rape
experience.
culture and
I have experience
dog
with dog
parks.
parks, so I might be able to offer some
insight.
some insight, yes, into the dog park culture, So
It's just
But
thinking about all of the latest stuff involving Kero and the zoo crew. I'm not entirely sure if I want to talk about dogs and rape in parks.
Really?
I mean, now that you put it that way, I'm really interested in talking about it.
I mean, we're not like this at this point. We're like, why is this? Okay, fucking geographers is a citation in the dog park article. What
Yes.
is it citing? Like, what sentence is it being used to say this is my this is my thing for it? This is my justification for making.
It's page 14. It's basically near the top.
Okay, can you go to page?
Actually, it's section 3, just the oppressed dog. It's like the second paragraph talking about the oppressed dog. So if we just read through it, we'll probably get there eventually. We might have a better idea what they're trying to phrase it as, because there might actually be some sort of lead up. I highly doubt it, but there is the possibility of there being a lead up to this. And holy shit, I just read the sentence victim blaming in female dogs.
Oh, bitches.
Oh, God.
All right, can I just?
Okay.
I just want to.
Why am I here? Why am I still alive? What is the appeal
I
of this?
that a lot. I do. Okay, so just to clarify the issue of the furries, none of us here are furries. Well, I'm not, and I know Brian isn't. The we're no more furries than like a sports team with a animal mascot or furries. So there you go. Like nobody here's a furry.
We evolved this way because of a series of inside jokes and other unintended things that we did on the internet. I changed my profile picture to the Doge because I like the meme, and I can't shake it now, so I just sort of embrace it. But it's not. I'm not a furry. Don't even get it. Don't even get it.
Yeah, although I mean, like, I'm pretty much agnostic on the furry issue. As long as they don't touch me, they're okay. All right, let's move on.
I just like to go out there and say I actively support the gassing of furries. Because they are degenerate pieces of shit. They ruined the internet and they've ruined everything they touch. Now anything posted on the internet involving an animal, people assume it's got something to do with furries. That's how much they've damaged internet society and culture.
Okay, and with that, let's talk about rape in the dog park.
Okay, so I'll start with the abstract, I guess. We'll just figure out what this is actually about, or do you want me to just?
Yeah. Let's start with the abstract. Although I'm still really curious about the full sentence.
No, we should get the context. We don't want to take anybody out of context. So
no,
okay,
absolutely not.
No, this article addresses questions in human geography and the geographies of sexuality by drawing upon 1 year of embedded in situ observations of dogs and their human companions at 3 public dog parks in Portland, Oregon. The purpose of this research is to uncover emerging themes in human and canine interactive behavioral patterns in urban dog parks to better understand human amoral decision-making in public spaces and uncover bias and emergent assumptions about gender, race, and sexuality. Specifically, and in order of priority, I examined the following questions. 1. How do human companions manage, contribute, and respond to violence in dogs? 2. What issues surround queer performativity and human reaction to homosexual sex between and among dogs? And 3. Do dogs suffer oppression based upon perceived gender? I can tell you without a doubt they absolutely do. Dogs are oppressed. It concludes by applying Black feminist criminology categories through which my observations can be understood, and by inferring from lessons relevant to human and dog interactions to suggest practical applications that disrupts hegemonic masculinities and improves access to emancipatory spaces. Remember, guys, this isn't real. This is a joke.
I know it's a joke, but it's accepted. It's like this is genuine belief in the field. The only reason it wasn't accepted was because it didn't reflect the researchers' own genuine belief. But they had to get the masculinities in there.
Yeah.
Hegemonic masculinities. They had to get their devil in there.
Well, that's how you get the papers approved. As I think it's really like you can write about anything you want. Like I was, looking at this other article, this other study we're not going to look at, but it's called Who Are They to Judge? Overcoming Anthropomorphy Through Fat Bodybuilding. There's definitely something about masculinity in there. Our struggle is my struggle. Solidarity feminism as an intersectional reply to neoliberal and choice feminism, which is literally taking from the book Mein Kampf and replacing Jew with men. And that's all they did. And, and it was accepted.
So we have an entire academic field of study that basically is men are evil and bad.
Yep, that's
And
right.
the things that they do are horrible. I mean, I know I've repeated this multiple times, but I just still find that astounding. And yet we live in a patriarchy that privileges men. We can live in a patriarchy that supposedly privileges men, but have an entire funded academic theory of study that's all about denigrating and shitting all over men. I mean, you'd think if we lived in a patriarchy that benefited men, the first thing they would do would get rid of this kind of crap, this constant association with masculinity with evil.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
So people are saying,
just point out
oh, yeah,
one
go
of
ahead.
the keywords for this paper is animaling.
What the hell is that?
Well, I assume it's like adulting, except animaling. I don't know. I just find that word amusing because it's not a word.
Oh, I see where you're saying. Okay, I'm going to read a couple sentences in the introduction.
Okay, I'll scroll down a bit. Go ahead.
In order to better understand themes within human geography and the spaces to which it applies, this article seeks to uncover emergent themes in human and canine interactive behavioral patterns represented within urban dog parks. I keep making that mistake. By examining the spaces through feminist, queer, and animaling lenses. Animaling lenses.
They must have laughed their asses off while they were writing this paper. I wish I could be a fly on the wall when all these things were being concocted.
Yep. Animaling lensing. Hey, you know, I've seen some people walking around in fursuits. Maybe that's an animaling lens. Let's go with that, shall we?
Yeah, I could just imagine her writing her notes in some sort of squirrel suit, sitting on a park bench.
Do furries actually want to be squirrels? Because I feel like whenever I see them, they all want to be wolves and foxes and cats and shit. It's very limiting. It's very limiting. Then there's like
it's usually mammals and usually like the cool ones.
Right, isn't it?
I don't
it
think
just so happens
going around saying like I'm a tapir.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Nobody wants to be the tapir or like the the mole rat or something, like some of the really ugly looking mammals. Worm. Yeah, or like the bats that are really fucking ugly looking, with the noses turned up.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if there's ever going to be
I've got to admit, I did once troll a furry convention by wrapping myself up in silver duct tape and just walking around telling everyone I was a tapeworm.
Or a cocoon. You could go as a cocoon.
Maybe there'll be a future feminist paper that actually investigates a furry convention and brings all of this bullshit to it. That might be that actually might cause an implosion in the space-time continuum through which our entire reality would be sucked and inverted. Maybe they shouldn't do that. Actually, come to think of it, it might be too much of a disaster. But I shall continue. By doing so, this aims to rediscover moral decision-making in both human and animal spaces and to better understand how it is influenced by assumptions around gender and sexuality. Already, there has been much work done on unconscious bias in relation to the geographies of sexuality and gender, which has revealed consistent patterns of beliefs in people upholding themes within heteronormativity, patriarchy, and male entitlement. What? In a dog park, okay. Lacking from the existing research, however, is an application of these themes to human-animal spaces as they would be interrogated by feminist geography. Further, as people are exceptionally skilled at hiding these biases in daily interactions, even from themselves, and uncovering them has required a variety of methods. Here I propose another such method for uncovering unconscious bias around gender, sexuality, and race and their applicability in the unique urban spaces in which humans and animals intersect. Okay, well, this is getting interesting.
Wait, intersect? What?
Yeah, well, in a dog park, basically. This is all just word salad to... Actually, you know what? This is surprisingly clear compared to the other stuff we've read. I just realized that I am actually understanding these sentences.
It's
the
not
first
as
time I read
it's not quite as postmodern as the other ones. I think that these, in order to save their sanity, these professors had to write in English, and it ended up that, because the thing is, I think the further down that rabbit hole you go, the more likely that you're not going to return. So they have to like write on the edge of that stuff to like make it convincing, but they also have to make sure the sentences make sense to themselves so that they can get like this hoax out effectively. But it runs a risk of being exposed because the writing is not quite enough to summon, an elder god into this plane if we read it out loud. So that's why it's clear. It's Shib Niggurath isn't like coming through right now. I'm sorry, Shib Roth of color.
Okay, all right. I'm just looking at this. It reads like there's the actual ability to form a thought writing this. I'm surprised that they managed. I'm surprised that it didn't trigger any red flags with the reviewers of these papers. I mean, this, like I said, I'm reading this and I can actually understand what they're saying the first read. This is unusual for these papers. In fact, this actually, to be quite honest, considering the only reason why this was rejected was because the people involved didn't genuinely believe what they were saying, even though everything is cited, so it all should be quote unquote factually accurate to the field. So there shouldn't be any reason to reject it based on the beliefs of the actual creators or the actual authors. Like you don't reject other scientists' research based on their beliefs. There should be no reason to reject this research. This shouldn't be rejected. This should still be standing in its entirety in the field because there's no legitimate reason to have rejected it. The beliefs of the scientists who authored it are irrelevant. And to be quite honest, this is one of the clearest examples of work in the field that I have ever read. I mean, it sounds like there's some sort of logic moving underneath it. It's a completely fucked up crack logic, but you can follow it. Usually when they had these papers, you can't fucking follow the logic. One sentence, you read it 4 or 5 times, you're like, what the hell are they trying to say? I'm just putting it out there. This is really solid work. I mean, accepting the underlying premises and logic, which are all nonsense, this is really solid work. This shouldn't have been rejected. This is the best work I've seen in the field. The clearest, most concise, most explained. And that's just the first couple paragraphs. Am I blowing too much smoke up this paper's ass?
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like in terms of structure and readability and like delivering the message, it's the best one yet, and it's the hoax. That's the irony of it.
They haven't referenced like half a dozen other things with no explanation of how they connect.
I think the difference is that when people were writing this one, they were just trying to have fun with the absurdity of writing these kinds of papers. But the actual papers that we read were trying to make a grade, so they had to like, you probably needed to get a certain number of words, a certain number of pages, and a certain number of sources had to be cited in order to be considered for, to be considered an academic paper. And so they're like just filling it with stuffing and filler and bullshit to like make it, bigger, because ultimately the argument that's being made in all of these papers is something you could probably sum up in like one paragraph, right? But they have
good,
to,
men bad.
Yeah, women good, men bad, women oppressed, men not. We need to like make men essentially work in fields beneath women, but give all of their money to women at the same time. So that's the world we need to have. So yeah,
but the thing is, but they would have the same constraints. What's astounding me is the hoaxers are actually seem to be treating this with more, like treating the process of communicating shit through language with more respect than I've seen in this.
Yeah, because I think it's because they're smart enough to know it's bullshit, and so that means they're smart enough to be able to write a good paper talking about something they have no interest in and probably just find retarded. and they're able to enjoy it more than the people who are actually taking this seriously. Because I don't want to say they're dumb, but I think that they're NPCs. Let's put it that way. So if you got an NPC to write a paper, that's what you're gonna get.
Okay.
It could just be a result of these people writing in other fields. Like, I don't actually know what it is that they do. But generally, I find the more accurate and better papers tend to be explained in more simple language so you can actually understand it. So I think it might just be a writing style that they've developed over however many years so that people can actually understand what's being said rather than hiding behind all the obscurantist bollocks that a lot of the really dumb motherfuckers put in their papers basically to appear smart. Like, I think there might be, it might either be that, or it might just be that they don't feel the need to try to bamboozle people with unnecessarily big words.
Yeah, I would say that too. I mean, if you're dealing with complicated concepts, you try to reduce them down to the simplest manner you can. Of course, I'm the one saying that, so lots of people listening are like, "Yeah, right, Alison." Well,
it's
I
true
don't
though. I mean, if you look on my channel, we've looked at full-on drug studies, how chemicals are work and are affected in the brain and things like that. And it's all written in really simple, really clear language. But then you go over to the feminist stuff and it's just suddenly like, what the ever-loving hell am I reading? It's just word salad. Like, it is as impenetrable as is possible.
Exactly.
And it's by design.
Do you want to take the next paragraph?
Can we do the super chats, because they've been kind of building up and since we started?
Oh, really? We got some super chats.
Oh yeah, we got super chats.
Ignoring us.
No,
Okay.
I was just waiting for like a good place to put them in there, and you guys can keep sending them if you like. I'll read them out.
I see how it is. I see how it is, Brian. The woman was about to speak, and then you decided to insert super chats in the opening.
Yes, you were.
I see the creepiness that's going on here.
You were being interrupted by money. So
interrupted by a man.
Shekel-rupting.
I'm gonna start writing a paper about this. My experiences.
Do it. Do it, and then turn it into a TEDx talk. I'm sure you'll get the platform. Mr. Roboto gives us $2 and says, "Isn't the rape shield a literal chastity belt?" Robert T. Longway gives us $5 and says, "Hi, Teal dear. I'm glad you're here. I'm getting withdrawals from not having your videos. Also, hi. I'm glad Brian and Alison are here too. So thanks for the afterthought, Robert." John Taylor gives us £5 and says, "Sounds like this paper could split Teal Deer's sides like Black Anality did." Almost, except, it's a little, I think I'm not going to speak for Teal Deer, but it's a little bit less hilarious when you know that it's not real. But maybe that's a good thing, because you also kind of want to cry when you read the stuff that's real. The Great Endor gives us €5 and says, "I guess Why I Want to Bleep Ronald Reagan by J.G. Ballard could now be a legitimate paper instead of a dystopian experimental work of fiction." And then lastly, we just got this one. The DCV Titan gives us $2 Canadian and says, "Mansplaining Alison's Struggle." So he's giving you a title to your paper. Mansplaining Alison's Struggle. Okay.
Mansplaining on my own show, Alison's Struggle.
Yes. Mansplaining on your own show on the channel that you run, your struggle. The takeover is happening, guys, little by little. Okay, so yeah, so were you asking Teal Deer or me to take the next paragraph?
I was actually asking Teal Deer if you would like to take the next paragraph.
I can do. Yeah, I'll do this. My voice will hold out for this long, I suppose. Let's see. So, while the research primarily involves applying theoretical considerations from feminist and queer theory, and draws inspiration from applications of black criminology in non-human animal observations collected over the course of a year in urban dog parks, the inherent relationship between human dog and dog parks brings the question into the realm of human, specifically feminist, geography. Feminist geography, in the broadest sense, examines the way in which geographical concepts such as space, place, and environment interact with society in ways relevant to the feminist researcher. You see, they explained it. This is more than
Yes!
actual feminist researchers do. They actually put in, this is the concept we're using, and this is what it is. This is what so many
Yes!
feminist researchers don't do.
Exactly.
Like
That's
that researcher I read who was like talking about dogs in popular culture such as Twilight, and that was it. They never explained how it was related,
I know.
which is what they needed to do.
I mean, look at this. They've explained the concept that they're going to be using and how it applies to what they're doing. I mean, right there. The people who reviewed this should have realized that this was a hoax. It's too clear. It makes too much sense. I mean, you have to accept the ridiculous premises, but after you accept the ridiculous premises, they're actually exploring the premise in the way that someone is in a legitimate way. Like the premise again is just absolutely absurd. But they're taking it. They're saying, okay, this is the premise. Now I'm going to approach this in a way that's legitimate, assuming the premise, even though the premise is absurd. And this is what they've created. They're explaining their terms. They're explaining how their terms apply. I swear to God, they should have had a red flag. This is too well written.
Remember,
This is too
though,
clear.
this paper in particular gained special recognition for excellence from its journal.
This might be why.
Yeah, this
because
might
it
be
is
why,
very
because it's
well
clear. But it got special recognition of excellence from its journal, Gender, Place, and Culture, a highly ranked journal that leads the field of feminist geography. So I think that's the reason it was awarded something. This was so good, so clear. So yeah, that's this is. Oh man. Ugh.
You know what needs to happen is that more and more scientists need to become hoaxers in the grievance industry.
That's
To the
right,
point where
guys.
almost
The
every
hoax.
single article.
Yeah.
should be- every
The
single
fake
article-
paper, the fake hoax paper, won an award.
Yeah.
It beat out
But
real papers.
Every single article in the grievance field, every single one. I'm telling you, researchers, the only way to get rid of these people is to do this. You all need to start writing articles in this field, getting them published to the point where you are 90 hoaxes are 90% at least of what's being published. And then you have to reveal the fact that you don't believe it. I mean, to be a massive troll. That's the only way to get rid of these people. Is just humiliate them and do it better than they do it, because these three people have done it. They have taken this field and they have done it better than the people in the field, and they don't believe a word. Just saying. That's what needs to happen. Fight back. Do you want to continue,
All right.
Tilder?
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, where were we? There we go. Over the last few decades, feminist geography has emerged and developed a number of internal debates about the role, meaning, purposes, and goals of applying a feminist lens to questions in human geography. Even by the late 1990s, these debates had grown by a considerable degree, and they continue unabated today. This study is not meant to resolve these disputes so much as to contribute to the rich and fruitful vein within feminist geography that understands gendered constructions and oppressions in its relationship to certain physical spaces set against specific places and situated within particular environments. In particular, it delves into the space of some urban dog parks and explores the way the cultural expectations defining such spaces contribute to gendered assumptions and oppression, including of human women and non-human animals, here dogs, with the hope of delineating the features of a surprisingly oppressive and violent space.
Dog parks. Okay.
Surprisingly oppressive and violent.
Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, there sometimes, fights, like little scuffles break out. Yeah, it happens, like a playground.
You mean between the dogs or
between the dogs? But
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen altercation with a person. But yeah, with dogs.
So I guess what we're seeing is the dogs are expressing their internalized canogony, their internalized self-hatred, because really it's the humans that cause the oppression, and specifically white humans like you, Brian, that cause the oppression. White straight male humans that cause the oppression of dog parks. So when a dog is violent to another dog, it's an expression of their oppression by the white cis patriarchal normative hegemony toxic masculinity.
It spills down from up on high.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So again, I'm struck by the fact that this is actually very clear. And also it's approaching a real literature review that looks at the state of the overarching field and says, well, this is where the state of the overarching field is. I mean, I don't remember this happening in the other papers that we read. Just so people know, when you write something like, when you write a research article or a thesis or something, you're supposed to do a literature review that reviews all the relevant studies, or as many as you can find, the relevant studies and stuff that's going on in the field, explain what's happening in the field, and then situate yourself within it. And this is something that I haven't actually seen with a lot of the, correct me if I'm wrong, Teal Derad, because I might be wrong, but I don't remember seeing that. No,
Yeah, they don't.
Clearly stating what it is you're exploring, what it means, where it's situated in the field, the other research into what you're doing. I mean, before, I haven't seen that in the other papers. It's just absent. In favor of a word salad, or just saying, well, I went to this I don't know, burlesque show by these people once, and that really inspired me to do this thing that I'm now doing. Ugh. So once again, I'm not surprised this got a award or a recognition of some kind, because it actually follows the format of a paper is supposed to follow, which is, it's really remarkable that other papers that don't even follow this format aren't even as well constructed as this paper, and yet have the same lunatic premises get published all the time in this field, and they're still there. I mean, literally, this is a paper that was a hoax, and it got a reward because it's so well constructed. And the only reason it's been rejected is because the people didn't genuinely believe what they were saying. And there are people who have absolute nonsense being published in this, and who genuinely believe what they're saying. I don't even know if they can genuinely believe it, because it's not a coherent thought that they're presenting in their papers. And they're still there, not rejected. Amazing.
Indeed it is. I got more super chats.
Oh, shut up with the super chats.
They keep sending them. Okay. You want me to do it?
Well, okay. I got excited there because they were saying that they were going to explain their unique approach.
Yeah.
I propose for uncovering unconscious biases, a unique approach for uncovering unconscious biases around gender, sexuality, and race, and their applicability in unique urban spaces in which humans and animals intersect. The fact is that I'm actually sort of excited by what they're about to say, because I know that they don't actually believe the premises. So there might be some sort of interesting insight in here, an actual insight, not just a bunch of word salad being thrown together.
Well, we could skip to that part because it's like 2:53, and we've just started. We're still in the introduction. I don't know if there's a way to jump to that, or if you want to just read through the whole thing, or what.
Well, okay. So they're proposing a method for uncovering unconscious biases. Are they simply saying that going into the dog park itself is going to be uncovering an unconscious bias as expressed through the interactions of dogs and humans in a dog park? Or are they saying that they have another additional methodology for uncovering unconscious bias?
I don't know.
Like the aforementioned squirrel fursuit. Okay. Read your super chats.
Okay, I'll read the super chats. Okay, so Altair Mawat gives us $2 New Zealand. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I don't know. Zir. And says, crowdfunded Mars colony, MGTOW TM. Who's keen? Okay, good luck. I hope it works out. I still want a MGTOW Congress personally, but that's a whole other thing. Tyler Preston gives us $5 and says, the only way for any of this to make any level of sense is for if it was written by one of the aliens from They Live. But the thing is, Tyler, this one makes more sense than any other paper we've read, even though we know it's got a bullshit premise. So take that from what you will. The Great Indoors gives 1979 gives us €2 rather, and says Man Kampf by Alison Tiemann. So another suggestion for title of your paper, Man Kampf. The DCV Titan gives us
My struggle.
It's a man struggle. Isn't that what it means? The DCV Titan gives us $2 Canadian and says coherent thought. Get it? Thought. Tatsumi Tui gives us $1.99 and says we pays it, he says it, Hannah. It's Alison, not Hannah. And
Jesus
Serathis.
Christ!
I know. And Serathis gives us 400 huffs, whatever those are. Hungarian, maybe? I don't know. Huffs. And says, do a show about the Polish film Sex Mission. Okay. I don't know what that is. We'll look into it. Sex Mission. Okay.
Okay, so I've read a little bit ahead. And I think that the next couple paragraphs could be safely skipped. What do you think, Teal? Do you have any problem with this? Are you still alive?
Oh, I've skimmed them, and yeah, I think we can get by it. Yeah, I think so, because it's just a little bit of there's the history and the geography things, and Doges are oppressed, and okay.
Yeah, I would say that the next paragraph we should read is this one, and I'll read it. In particular, regarding the interaction of human beings and animals, both inside of and apart from physical space, humans project their moral beliefs and assumptions onto animals, yet also consider animals outside the moral sphere. In public spaces, we see this failure when we consider spaces neutral, rather than gendered, raced, anthropocentric, or otherwise bound up with axes of oppression. In animals, we see this inconsistency when applying human morals to dogs by calling them loyal or disobedient, or referring to cats as self-sufficient or arrogant, yet accepting behaviors like fighting and torturing small animals as value-free and natural. What? You mean that
she's saying that
we're not...
I know what she's saying. Like, she's saying that because we, like, when we interact with our animals, we sort of project our values of, or behaviors onto them. So when a cat behaves a certain way, we presume them to be arrogant or self-sufficient or dickish. But yet at the same time, if a cat catches a mouse and tortures it before eating it, or maybe never tortures it, we consider that to be normal and natural behavior for cats. We don't actually judge them morally on those things. We just say, oh, it's so funny, my cat left half a mouse in my shoe. So
yeah, actually, I also want to pull up the paragraph before the quote, because they're actually I'll just read it. Indeed, theoretical and empirical research into critical facets of human geography has already uncovered much of the underlying reality of how people and cultures construct gender, identity, race, and other features through the use of spaces and places. Perhaps most profoundly within McCritterick's cornerstone observation is that the fundamental nature and use of public spaces is intrinsically bound up with the ways in which we have been led to understand the hegemonic presence of the white male subject. This problem manifests both in actuality and in concept. It's consistent throughout both history and geography, and is intrinsically manifest in the materiality of everyday spaces. Here I introduce instead the parallel concept of the oppressive human, and relationship to that of the oppressed dog, which is subjected to the often speciest, typically anthropocentric, hegemonic presence of the human subject. Okay.
If you have a white male husky as a pet, like a floofer, for example, is that still considered a white male? I don't know, like, or is that only for humans? Maybe we haven't gotten to that part yet. I'm not really sure.
Well, they seem to be suggesting that there's an inconsistency when applying human moral values to dogs, when we call them loyal or disobedient, but then we don't judge them for engaging in animalistic behaviors like fighting and killing mice. So maybe I'm not quite sure where she or he is getting with that, or are they suggesting that maybe we should apply
maybe I was just thinking maybe we need to apply a progressive stack to dogs with pit bulls at the bottom, because they are the most oppressed, because we judge them all the time and unfairly too. We shouldn't do that to pit bulls. They're good boys too. They didn't do nothing.
Okay, well, maybe we can get an answer in the next paragraph. You want to read it? I'm talking to Brian. You,
Okay,
Brian.
sure. In the example of the urban dog park, it is natural to see how such a moral inconsistency compares against McKittrick's concept of the hegemonic presence of the white male subject as an ethical standard against which other individuals, races, and dogs are to be compared. As such, human relationships with both human animal spaces and animals themselves provides a richly revealing double sight of morality and amorality. This forms an a/moral paradox within human geography and within animaling, in which humans ignore the moral valences of public spaces and yet feel free to express deeply held moral beliefs and assumptions through their perceptions of and interactions with animals, who are presented as bearing full responsibility for them and yet understood not to be responsible. To this end, recent studies in feminist geography have uncovered greater depths of the constructions of race and gender within spaces, including public spaces. Likewise, ethnographic research in social psychology, animal-related discourses, and animaling have included targeted investigations of how and when animals interact with human companions in urban environments. Critically observing how people engage and navigate these provides a fruitful way of understanding anthropocentric oppression, which can serve as a theoretical model for accessing unconscious or concealed bias around gender, race, and sexuality, paradigmatic of both society at large and the relevant spaces themselves as microcosms thereof.
All right, so the interactions between people in dog parks are going to reveal our unconscious biases of sex and race. I'm curious, how are white men considered to be the the standard by which everybody else is judged? Because
they're
it seems
just fucking awesome.
well, okay. All right,
Straight white
so
males, this actually works very well with the intersectional feminist theory. Straight white males
exactly.
are considered to be the norm. They that's why they don't have a culture. They are just straight white males, and they are the thing by which everything else is compared. And that's totally not them doing it. It's everybody, especially straight white males.
It just occurs to me that isn't how straight white males have affected or harmed or failed to benefit every single other group, isn't that the entirety of this fields? Like, I mean, we have an entire branch of academic knowledge devoted to how straight white men have failed other groups morally.
Yep.
So wouldn't that suggest that the moral standard of our society, that our society chooses to support an entire academic field that judges white men by the benefit of other groups? Wouldn't that suggest that the moral standard of our society is not white men? I mean, we don't have an academic group, we don't have an entire academic field, presumably a lot of financial and intellectual investment analyzing how black people have failed the white man, or how women have failed the white man, or how gay lesbians have failed the white man. I mean, so if the white man was the moral center of our society, you'd think that would exist. But it
Well,
doesn't.
it's just that they consider themselves to be the oppressed underdog, and everyone else is doing the white man thing.
Who's
Sounds
they
like
consider themselves?
Well, the academics who write that sort of shit. It's like all of feminism. It's like they're always the underdog, which is why they can get away with everything, because everyone else is the one doing the bad thing. They are
Yeah, but
always the one true good person.
the thing is that this is what so frustrates me. There's these fundamental assumptions at the heart of these statements that are provably false. If we actually lived in a society where every other group of people was judged by the moral standard of the white man, then we would have an entire academic institution devoted to gobbledygook about how black people are failing white men, or how women are failing white men, or how queer people are failing white men.
Well, yeah,
We'd
but
have an
that's
entire
what all of academia is, except for these people who write the papers in their mind.
Oh, but the physics, there are no physics papers on how. Okay, there was one guy. recently apparently fired from CERN, I think, who said that there is no prejudice against women in physics or mathematics. There's in fact an actually pervasive systemic prejudice or systemic bias against male mathematicians and physicists when it comes to getting jobs, and it's actually provable. He presented statistics to prove this case, and he was freaking fired, or he was removed from his position, or he was removed off of some board. I don't know the specifics, and I apologize for bringing this up without knowing the specifics. It was extremely frustrating. But how can they say that a person like that represents the status quo when the status quo works so aggressively to remove him? I mean, because you can use even the counterexamples. You can point to counterexamples where men have actually presented the argument that maybe something is failing white men, and they get kicked out of the institution. You can't even present the argument, not even as a thought experiment. You can't even allude to it. So how is it possible that we live in a society where white men are the moral standard when white men can't even talk about how they're being morally transgressed against? That's what I'm saying. It's like
because when those white men get kicked out of those positions, that's the underdog finally being able to have an impact somewhere, but they're still the minority position somehow.
Can I show you guys something? Well, it's okay. What I shared with you guys the screen of the OBS, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm gonna turn on my camera. Okay. First, Jojo, Max, come here. These are my. Are these oppressed? I don't know. Jojo, come here, buddy. What's that in your mouth? I'm just gonna show you something real quick. Jojo, sit. Hey, sit for me. Come on. Sit.
Oh my God, you're seeing it here on Honey Badger Radio.
I know, it's live, right. You're going to see the... Jojo, look at me. See Kyle.
Oh God, no.
One other thing I want to show you, too. This is something I found in the store. This is a teal deer. For real. No, he's already done it, babe. He's already done it. I found one in store. It just so happened to be a thing that I found. So I thought I'd show it to you. But, that's my dog oppressor. Or maybe I'm oppressing him.
I want everybody to see how Honey Badger Radio promotes the oppression of dogs by the white man. Brian?
I made him do it. He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Want me to do it again?
No, that's okay.
Okay, I won't do it again.
I think we've illustrated our moral depravity enough. I'm just saying that
the opinions of Jojo are his own and do not reflect those of Honey Badger Radio. I can't help the things that he feels. When he saw what happened to Count Dankula, my dog changed after that. We were watching the videos, and he suddenly felt a magnetism towards the Third Reich. So,
Jesus Christ. I don't know.
I mean, Jojo is part German Shepherd, so I mean, it's not like it could be helped.
You know what, Brian? You are going to get me sued.
No, you can put it on me. I didn't. You could see in the video that you were like not thrilled. So. Well,
I'm not thrilled because I know that this is something that that's why I'm saying put it. Show the person who did that. They're going to say that this is a white supremacy thing. Okay. I am trying to find the information on that guy, but I once again, I just find it remarkable that if a white cis het man even alludes to any kind of situation where he's being morally failed by society, he can be fired for that. But there's an entire academic industry devoted to showing how white cis het men fail everyone else morally. And yet we live in a society that hates the fact that people fail or white cis het men don't get benefits. All right. Want to move on to the next paragraph? Anyone have a suggestion for the next paragraph?
All right. Who wants to take it? I could do it. Whatever.
Yeah, sure. Find one and just dive one in. It
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all very clear.
Actually, this is I think this next one sounds pretty spicy, so I'll just go with the
Okay,
next
do it.
paragraph. Throughout this work, the word rape describes human perceptions of dogs forcefully penetrating other dogs who have given no indication of wishing to engage in sexual activity. Of course, the following caveat applies. Because of my own situatedness as a human rather than as a dog, I recognize my limitations in being able to determine when an incident of dog humping qualifies as rape. This is something that happens in dog parks. In particular, from my own anthropocentric frame, it is difficult, if not impossible, to ascertain when canine sexual advances are or wanted, or when they are rapes rather than performances of canine dominance, which introduces considerable unavoidable ambiguity in my interpretations of this variable. Though tangential to raise at this juncture, these limitations raise a pressing question to the study of animal geographies. How are we to, can we know other species' experiences of the world in a way that stays true to the animal's experiences without being filtered through our own human perceptions and social conditioning, with regards to animal behavior especially? I do not seek to probe this question and will instead use care throughout the article to indicate that my observations of canine sexual behavior at the dog park fall upon a challenging spectrum in which consent is difficult to determine. Furthermore, I am aware that this could be interpreted as a dismissive attitude towards the seriousness of rape, but the opposite is the case. It is these very dismissive attitudes that this work seeks to uncover and repair. In addressing anthropocentric attitudes to dogs, however, because human-dog interaction is intrinsically bound up in the expression of deeply entrenched human moral beliefs, but also provides a site for denial of responsibility for them, it is important to describe the actions of dogs as they are in terms of violence, and in particularly sexual violence, to best understand the significance of subsequent human responses. Therefore, the use of the word rape, though thusly qualified and jarring, is used following critical reflection to disrupt the human tendency to both project and deny moral evaluations in interactions with dogs, and to analyze the ways in which sexual violence arises in, quote, everyday situations within public dog parks. So I'm glad we got that cleared up, because I didn't want to hear the word rape during this paper and freak out. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I'm totally with you there.
Privileges were checked.
You realize in the last sentence that there was a clear and unequivocal contradiction. Project and deny moral evaluations. So she or he is trying to disrupt the human tendency to both project and deny moral evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, to both evaluate and not evaluate dogs morally. How do you disrupt not evaluating dogs morally and evaluating dogs morally? Those are two contradictory activities. You can't disrupt both of them.
Yeah, they probably know that, which makes it funnier because it still won an award.
But I think this is a good place, because this is the spicy bit. I wonder how much laughing there was when someone wrote this. Because of my own situatedness as a human rather than as a dog, I recognize my limitations in being able to determine when an incident of dog humping qualifies as rape. I can imagine that there was some fucking laughter at that one when that was written.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man. Okay. So there was something that occurred to me while I was reading all of this. We have a situation where these people are obviously able to construct a legitimate academic paper. They've accepted the insane premises involved in the grievance industry. And they're going about, they're saying, okay, these premises are insane, but we'll try to construct something rational regardless of the insane premise. And they're doing a good job. This is all clear. It's all concise, relatively concise. There is a little bit of word salad, but you have to give the people what they want, right? So you can follow it, and it's following the proper format for a paper. So it has a literature review. It's situating itself within the greater scope of the literature. I'm wondering if their ability to be concise and clear about all of this stuff is actually helped by the fact that they think it's ridiculous. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I think that other people who are supposedly genuinely believing this stuff at some level they have to recognize the cognitive dissonance, or try to avoid it. I think that's where all
Avoided, I
this
think.
spewing, yeah, that's where all the spewing of the word salad is coming in. They know that there are problems with their thinking, that their thinking is illogical, so they're trying to hide it behind an excessive amount of bullshit, so that they don't actually have to look too closely at the flaws in their own rationality. Whereas since this is being written by a group of people who obviously know it's bullshit, they don't have to do that. So they have the advantage of being very concise and clear about what they're doing, being logical and
Yep.
being rational in their irrationality. And I just wanted to point that out there. And again, I want to call to all of those academics who are willing to do something like this. You need to flood the grievance industry with these kinds of papers, because you will win all of the awards, because you don't have to actually emotionally grapple with the incredible level of cognitive dissonance represented by the grievance industry belief system. You can write at a far higher level of competence than anyone in it, because they are busy trying to prove to themselves that they're not insane. And you're not. You already know it's insane. So when you approach it, you don't have to work under that handicap. I'm just saying it. Just I'm curious, Steel Deer, you've been quiet. Are you still with us?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I just noticed that they, throughout this paper, they do actually kind of weave the obvious nonsense in with some actual legitimate points. Like the point here where they're talking about animal behavior and how you have to always kind of phrase it as is relevant to you. It's, well, yeah, you do have to a certain degree when it comes to animals. We know that there are certain behaviors which animals exhibit, and we do have to sort of twist it into a way that makes sense to us when it's something which isn't directly translatable. It's like the use of idioms or certain phrases in other languages, and people say, well, there's no real way to directly translate it to English, but it kind of means this. And it's sort of the same thing with animals. Like you might get
Yeah.
a certain animal call. It's like, when you get the apes doing like the big booming thing, and it's kind of like, well, it's a message that's kind of, here I am, this is mine, stay away. It's sort of all of those things put together.
Yeah.
It's like we
And
don't have one word for it, but we have to put it in those terms so that it processes to us and how our brains function.
yeah, it's this article, like Brian was saying, I don't think this article is as funny because it doesn't have the level of cognitive dissonance that the other articles have. It actually disturbingly is better, is significantly better. The hoax is significantly better than the reality. And like Teal'c is saying, they're weaving in actual legitimate stuff because they can bring in logic. They don't have to constantly do this little tap dance around their little points of cognitive dissonance where they have to actually look at themselves and say, I'm spewing shit. This is all bullshit. This is insanity. And so they can actually bring a lot of rationality to it. So they've created an article. This group, the hoaxers, have created better work in this field. Like literally, you could flood this field with all hoax work, and it would probably improve the field. That is sad. You grievance industry scholars, you are sad fucking people. You are sad. Maybe you could try not engaging in cognitive dissonance and actually be honest to the world around you and
Stop
reality.
using all of the obscurantist bullshit and actually explain the links that you're making when you say, oh, well, in reference to such and such and such a theory. It's like, well, explain how it's linked. Just do it. Just one or two sentences.
I don't think they can
And they
though.
can't. Well, no, of course they can't, because
To educate
it's all about,
yourself.
yeah, it's about just flashing the ring. This is what we've learned after doing this for so long. It's all member berries. It's, oh, do you know what this thing is? Well, now it's in the paper along with this other thing that you've heard of. And then everyone loves it because now it's two things together that you
How
like.
many? I wonder how many papers there are that actually have sources that like trace back to the original paper, like it's a complete, you know, enclosed
Lots.
circle of bullshit.
Lots.
Yeah, I'm sure most of them are like that, right? Where they just reference a thing that references a thing that comes back around to the beginning, and you're like, it doesn't go anywhere.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the circular citations are a thing, absolutely. But you've also got to remember that there is a lot of the sort of this is a nice paper you've got, it'd be a shame if something happened to it, that happens in these circles as well, where it's basically like, oh, my researcher, someone who I'm working with told me about their paper, so I'm going to cite it because why not? Or, where the peers are like, oh, I wrote about this, you should cite my work. And, if you don't, I'm not going to let it through, sort of thing. That there's a lot of incestuousness going on. That happens throughout all of academia, but it seems like it's something that happens a lot in this field as well.
Wow, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think it's mostly incest. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so incestuous now. I don't even think we have a term to describe it anymore.
Really deformed.
But really deformed.
That's usually the product of incest.
Yeah, this is like this is like 7th generational incest. We're at Mormon flipper baby levels at this point.
That's right, Cyclops babies.
Okay, so I just be better, do better. To be honest, if we could just build a wall around the entire grievance industry and just say, you know what, just occupy your own space, but don't get into the statistics, the research on things like sexual abuse and domestic violence and all that other stuff, because that's where the rubber really hits the road with this lunacy, because they apply the same bullshit nonsense tactics when it comes to massaging reality, when it comes to rape and domestic violence, and that goes on to inform government policy on those issues. That's where this stuff gets really creepy and scary. But I'm thinking we should call it, because it's been an hour. Unless there are any super
It's
chats.
hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, we got some super chats. They've already gone through, but I could just read them out. Let's see. What?
Have you already read them? Because we don't have to read them twice.
No. I haven't read them, but they, you know how when you put a super chat up, it stays active for a certain amount of time depending on how much money you get. They've all become.
No, I get it.
Yeah, they've all become inactive, but they're still here. I can read them. Eric Hopper gives us $5 and says, encourage them into blatant bigotry from inside. Coron Strong gives us €5 and says, how do you like your new house in the Dayton area, Alison? Sounds like you're settled already. White power symbol. What he's jokingly saying because somebody called you Hannah earlier, so he's just sort of like, I think that's what that is. Zeranx gives us $5. Yeah, it's a joke. Zeranx gives us $5 and says, I'm concerned this might block your ability to enter the UK, just like Lauren Southern, Brian. Well, I mean, maybe JoJo can't get in. But I mean, we wouldn't want him invading the UK anyways. He's just gonna cause all kinds of rabble rousing. And
JoJo confirmed for alt-right.
He is. That's why he's always keeping me up, because he wants me out of the house. He tries to put me in a certain room. You stay there. The rest of this place is mine, brown person. Zeranx gives us $5 and says, wait, this paper was accepted with the separation of rape and dominance as a legitimate position? That's... Indeed. It was separating them, wasn't it? Huh. That one slipped by there because she treats rape as a sexual thing and rape as a dominance thing. Well, she doesn't call it rape when it's two dogs asserting dominance over each other. So she actually separates rape and dominance. Feminists don't do that. They think that they're the same.
Whoa.
In fact, they think that one is the other. Subtle troll.
Troll is subtle. Excellent. Well played. Is this Pluckrose?
Well, if with a name like Pluckrose, one would hope. Pluckrose?
Helen. It's by Helen Wilson, so I'm guessing that.
Oh yeah, that might be her.
The actual author is Ms. Pluckrose, Helen Pluckrose.
She.
I wonder if that's a real name too.
She blends in really well. It could be a It could,
a pseudonym?
No, I think Helen Wilson could be the pseudonym.
Yeah, definitely. But I'm wondering.
I mean, unless she really wanted unless she really wanted a name that came right out of the Downton Abbey show, in which case Pluckrose sounds good. So.
All right, continue.
What continue what? No, that's all the super chats. That was it. That's it.
Okay, great.
That's the
All right.
end.
Well then, shall I usher us out? Matilda, do you have any last thoughts?
I've just been reading the methodology of this paper, and it actually has a methodology. I mean,
Oh,
I'm blown away.
do you wanna take a look at the methodology and then call it a day?
Well, no, there's nothing special about it. It's just actually a pretty legit methodology. It's like sit in a dog park, count the number of dogs, mark down the sex of the dog, mark down the coloration of the dog so that you can identify them. Identify that you're using a mixture of qualitative and quantitative information insofar as you have counted dogs and are then making qualitative judgments about the behavior that they engaged in. And then there's the necessary, so basically again it's sort of the first couple of paragraphs is the sort of legit part of it, and then the second two paragraphs are like the, oh, there's a possibility that when I wrote down the gender of the dog's owner that I may have misgendered someone. And so sometimes I would try to ask and clarify and ask about their sexual orientation so that I got the non-binaries and the trans people in there. You know, the sort of all of the head nodding and the ring flashing. They seem to have a very sort of um distinct pattern to their way of doing this. Like they start out quite strong with something that's actually legit, and then just kind of append a load of the bullshit on the end of it. I'm actually sort of starting to get into their writing style now.
Yeah, it's accessible.
Yeah,
And
very.
it's an excellent hoax. And like I said, it's sad that this hoax is superior. The writing style of the hoax is superior. It creates a superior product to the average crap in the grievance industry journals. But let's look at some of these headlines here, because I noticed that you were scrolling through them,
Yeah.
Brian. So
I'm
let's
gonna
read
show.
it.
Let's drop them off before we get out. So these are the some of the other articles they wrote. Some of my favorites, anyway. So, like I already read before, Glaciers, Gender and Science, a feminist glaciology framework for global environmental change research. Then we have, who are they to judge? Overcoming anthropometry through fat bodybuilding. Then we have Our Struggle is My Struggle, Solidarity Feminism, and an intersectional reply to neoliberal and choice feminism, also known as Mein Kampf. Then there's Going In Through the Back Door, challenging straight male homo hysteria, trans hysteria, and transphobia through receptive, penetrative sex toy use. So
Pegging.
pegging yourself to fight against transphobia and homophobia.
Oh God.
And then we
Oh,
got and then we got an ethnography of restaurant masculinity, themes of objectification, sexual conquest, male control, and masculine toughness in a sexually objectifying restaurant. So they go to Hooters and they look at how bad things get for the women there, who are probably getting bigger tips than people who make really good money. And then the last one we have is The Constellations Are Sexist. Greek and Roman star configurations depict men as conquerors and heroes, while women are victims and bit players. Because that's science. That's science. The constellations.
that's relevant.
So
That's relevant.
those are
Okay, so I'm going to take us out. We're going to go to the patron after show at this point. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give patrons the option to choose which one they would like us to continue to review. Are constellations sexist? That thing about fat bodybuilding. Sexist glaciers. Some other shit about heteronormativity in pegging as challenging heteronormativity. What
Yeah.
It'll be your choice, guys. And if you want to join us, www.patreon.com/honeybadgerradio for more of this. And it's good stuff, like this is eminently readable and absurd at the same time. It's really well done. Bravo, Helen Pluckrose. That's sort of badass in a way, that name. Pluckrose.
Yeah, it is. It's not bad.
It's not bad. It's very literary. And she writes a good paper. Absurd and clear in its absurdity, and also very subtly trolly and poking fun at its subject matter. And I'm amazed that she managed to get it through without raising any red flags with the people who judge this stuff. Okay, Brian.
All right, I'm going to take us out then. And we'll talk to you guys. We'll talk to you guys very soon.
In the after show.